Hey, but let's just start with this and just think a provocative statement like this. Are you adding zeros or adding zero to your business? And so this question is really focused on, are you being the most productive you can as an organization or not? And so if we take a look at just a simple first uh, look at how this happens, and it's with Brad Sugars and Monty Wyatt. They're the authors of Pulling Profits Out of a Hat. And the model that we're going to present to you today is based upon this best-selling book. And it's one that, being a former CEO and a business unit president, I've got to tell you, I got so much out of this book in just terms of the discipline of planning and the importance of that. So let's just start with the definition of a successful business and what that may be. And we wanted to present at least a quote from Lee Iacocca, and the quote really demonstrates that business is fluid, it's dynamic, it's always changing. So if you feel that you're just in a stable place, then you may be on the edge of stagnation. And the planning process is all about how do you address that. So if you can, take out a sheet of paper, or if you can do it in the chat box, although we aren't seeing the chats come up, but maybe try that. Write down what the definition of a successful business is to you. What creates success in your organization, and is it defined? And who are the constituents that you serve? And I'll give you about a minute to do that. And we're going to go back to this, so this will be important for you to document. So when we ask for a definition, uh, you know, we are looking at presenting to you our definition of a successful business as one that is sustainable, predictable, stable, consistent, and emotionally connected. And we're going to talk about each of those attributes in a minute. And then we look at, who do we serve, and that's the company itself, the customers, our team, the stakeholders, and many people don't realize, but you have an obligation to the community too. And when I look at things, and especially serving as a CEO in the past, I wanted to understand, why am I doing this? Why, in fact, why am I even attending a presentation like this? What's the value of it? And how do I encapsulate that in determining what am I going to get out of the presentation that I can take action on in my business? So let's just start with a simple model, an economic model. So you have dollars and sales, the traditional total cost line, and then you look at your current revenue, and anything above the total cost line is what your profit is. But then I want you to just imagine opportunity revenue. And this is revenue that, if you were at capacity, meaning that not only did you fully utilize all your existing space, you've leveraged every attribute within your business, you have the right people, you know what your sales and marketing plans are, and you're really presenting that to the right market and the market space and your ideal client. And if you were to stack all those together, you're able to achieve whatever your optimum revenue is. Most of us will never get there. We're often looked at the current revenue line, and then you see that's the difference between profits and loss. And so this productivity challenge exists between your opportunity revenue and your current revenue. As a CEO, this was my focus. How do I close this gap? And it was a constant focus for me. And so there's many things within your business that you can focus on, isolate, and improve. And that's really what we're going to be talking about in terms of whether you're a strategic thinker, and whether you have a stated successful business definition and what that may be, if you have and know what your constituencies are, And then most important is that you have a model that you're operating off of. And we're going to focus on this model today. So if we're talking about a successful business, it's one that is sustainable. And if you want it to be sustainable, you have to have a strategy. And if you have a strategy, you're really going to be servicing the community and the company. If you want a predictable business, you have to master business development. If you master business development, you'll be servicing the company and the customer. If you want a stable business, you have to have your people equation right. And if your people equation's right, you're going to service the customer and the team. If you want a consistent business, you have to have your execution right. And if you do that, you'll service the team and the stakeholder. And then finally, we add this emotional connection because we understand that a business, a thriving organization within a community itself, is one that connects to it. And so you need to have an emotional connection to the community as well as the stakeholders. So that's how you actually create a definition for a successful business and the constituencies it serves. So let's just focus next on the first discipline of strategy. Strategy has four focused areas: the opportunity, marketability, leverage, and scalability. And the opportunity is something that you create, but it's a demand that you're fulfilling with your ideal customer base. But just as important as creating the opportunity for that is understanding what the marketability is. And marketability is that you have to be able to get in front of that ideal customer. And how likely will that be? And then in strategy itself, you're always looking at how do I leverage all of my capacity and attributes within the business. So let me give you an example. Most of you have some type of operating system, whether it's a customer relationship management system, human resources management system, even your Microsoft Office. If you're off of Microsoft Office, you have a management system. Some of you have unique management systems, whether you're a CPA or an attorney. You have management systems that you're using to operate your business, and it really has an impact on your overall labor. But I will state that most of you are likely not fully exploiting that management system. You may be using 30, 40% of its capability. So when we talk about leverage, it's being able to leverage every attribute of your organization and really to develop and close that capability gap. Scalability, an example of that would be if you're a new homeowner and you bought a small 2-bedroom rancher and then you decide to expand on it. And after a while, you're in the same house, but you put room after room and it looks like a patchwork. Well, an organization is the same way. We've seen that. If you've been a beginning organization or entrepreneurial, you usually start with what you have to have, and the owner wears multiple hats. And then you start to scale a little bit, and then you add positions, and sometimes you do it just to satisfy your legacy workforce. Well, we're encouraging you to look at how do you build an organization that is scalable and makes sense. It's not a patchwork design, but it fully exploits and leverages everything within your organization in terms of productivity.
Asking questions may be uncomfortable, but asking hard questions is really the difference between a good company and a great company. And you need a clear idea of where you want your business to be and a sound strategy for how to get there. Strategy equals sustainability, as Paul said. So your business strategy is your articulation of how you do business, and it consists of where you want to go, which are your goals, and the roadmap that gets you there, which is your plan. It's important that your plan is appropriately designed to achieve the goals you set. This is where we see, in our experience with clients, misalignment. Most businesses have built their business models around a product or a service, and as a result, they don't have sustainable strategies for their companies. If their product starts to fail, their business fails. Strategy is not about products or services. Strategy is about skillful management that attains an end, and that end is more than profit margins and revenue. It's about sustainability. Strategy defines a vibrant picture of your vision, which is where you're headed, and who is doing what to achieve which goal by when. Without a clear strategy, there is no clear direction for the company, which compromises your ability to achieve goals or attract and retain great people. So these are some of the questions that come out of the assessment. And it's an opportunity for you to ask yourself now, does your strategy, is it known by 100% of your management and entire team? And can they clearly articulate the strategic direction and the plan? Does it provide absolute clarity about organizational priorities, and everyone knows how they personally support those priorities? Does it identify your team has committed to long-term goals and annual goals that support your future?
So let's start looking at the discipline of business development. And if you master business development, you're going to have predictability in your organization. And if you have predictability, you're going to really service the company and the customer. So first and foremost is marketing, and how do you generate those leads within your business? And it's getting the right message to the right people and truly using the right media, and you do it at the least cost. Sales is being able to take what's in your pipeline in terms of leads, and then how do you convert them? And so we always encourage you to look at, you're helping someone to buy, and that help is directed towards satisfying their need. And then finally, customer service, so important, and often we ignore this aspect of our business. But customer service, if you can produce a wow factor, this is what increases the number of referrals to your business and acts as a lead generation tool for you, as well as it retains your existing clientele. So these are important factors and focus areas of business development, and something that we encourage you to master.
Your primary focus when enhancing business development should be centered on predictability. And you increase predictability when you focus on customers instead of profit. Customers are science and research tells us that about 40% of our daily activities are predictable. So the more a business focuses on customers instead of sales, the more likely it will succeed. If you focus on profit, then you'll lean toward competing on price. And when you become focused on that, you dilute your niche or your USP, your unique sales proposition. But if you focus on customers, you have an opportunity to learn from them to predict future growth. And predictability creates sustainability. So this is an opportunity to ask questions in regards to your business. Do you have a clear marketing plan to outperform your competition? Do you have a clear sales process and all the salespeople to maximize it? Do you have clear customer service standards and everyone who interacts with customers lives by those standards?
Let's turn the page to the discipline of people. And within people, we have three focus areas: leadership, talent development, and recruitment. And I'll just tell you that one of the areas that we see with our clientele is really differentiating between leadership and management. And the skill set involving both are very different. And that we often ignore the skills associated with leadership, and we focus with the skills associated with management. And we'll talk about that, the management piece, in a minute. But leading really is how do you inspire others to behave and act in a way that achieves results? That's what you're doing. And what are those skills that you can develop to produce that type of result? And it's about making this emotional connection with your people and clientele. Well, even at stakeholders at large. So it's this passionate and focused development of people. And then we see often within businesses too, if they have to cut back on cost, they often do it in terms of their own training. And so we encourage you to really look at talent development as an essential part of your business. And that includes everyone in your business. Do you have a development plan for them? And if you do, how long does it go out? And what are the reflections in that plan as terms of your employee and their own aspirations? And then finally, we often see that recruitment is an area that's always a challenge in a business. Looking for the right people to get on the right seats on the right bus, going in the right direction, is one of the most difficult things an organization has to deal with. But again, it's an area that we often invest little time and money and effort into it. So putting together a very clear recruitment process that's designed to bring people who are really the perfect fit of their company is something that ought to be part of your goals, whether they're quarterly or annual goals.
People discipline is all about stability. And when when your work environment is unstable, your company is distrusted by staff. It struggles to find right people, and you have teams that will work to a minimum. When you have an investment in your people, you have stability, and that results in high morale, high staff retention rate, and customers and employees are treated with the same respect. So we emphasize this a lot, Paul and I, with our clients, that we say, you don't build your business, you develop your people and they build your business. Exceptional people build excellent companies, and people are your greatest asset. If you want to scale, you need to leverage and maximize the potential of your people, and your people will leverage and maximize the potential of your business. So here's a few questions from the assessment that you can ask yourself right now. Do you have a clear process to identify, retain, and develop future high potential leaders in your business? Do you have a clear process of recruiting, hiring, and inducting the best new team members? And do you have a training curriculum that creates a great team members at all levels of the organization?
Let's now turn to execution, and this is the part of the definition of a successful business that provides consistency. And if you master this discipline, you're going to be servicing your team as well as your stakeholder. Look, about 80 to 90% of your daily activities are transactional, whether it's checking email, whether it's your work throughput in terms of paperwork. If you're a manufacturing base, of course, most of that activity is all repeatable type stuff. So mastering the process becomes very important, and making sure that you have the right processes in place and that they're trained to and updated, and that you really have a clear champion who is responsible for that process. And let's face it, if a process isn't written down, it doesn't exist. And if you don't have an existing process, this has a tendency to create chaos in your organization because your workforce is doing what they want and what they believe is the right thing to do, but it's not to standards. So when we talk about management now, managers are those that have the skills within the business itself. They oversee the processes. They actually manage the champions of the individual processes. And they're so important in terms of being able to correct wrong process flow. I mean, that's how we look at the management system. So it doesn't mean your managers can't be leaders. It just means that when you're developing these people, you want to develop the management skills and you want to develop the leadership skills. And when you diagnose a problem within your organization, it's your ability to understand which skill is either atrophied or needs help, and which skill do you need to exploit or leverage. And so understanding the difference between leadership and management becomes critical, especially as you begin to scale. And then finally, the financial controls. If there's a weak area that we see in small and mid-sized businesses, it's that they don't have a well-developed budget or multi-year forecast. And with the budget itself, it's mainly they're living day to day or month to month in terms of cash flow, and they aren't pinning uh, budgetary goals to what their actual execution plan goals are. So connecting those dots becomes very important. And look, there may be some things you do today that will have an impact 18 to 24 months out. If that's the case, you have to be able to forecast what that impact is on your both your bottom lines, whether it's your top line of revenue or your bottom line of profit. So if you master the execution piece, you're really servicing the stakeholder and the team.
As Paul said, execution is about consistency. And where we see a lack of execution, we also see division between team members and management and leadership. And it's extremely problematic. So consistency provides familiarity and knowing your business is dependable. And where you have redundancies, you have opportunities to systemize and create SOPs. So ask yourself the following questions in regards to execution. Does your business demonstrate all major processes are written down, trained on, followed, and updated periodically for continued improvement? Is it based on 100% of your department managers and team members having a 90-day action plan refreshed every quarter and aligned with the company's annual plan? Is it based on having clear financial goals, budgets, forecasts for the future that are reviewed weekly, monthly, quarterly, and annually? So customers have the same experience as our teams. When this discipline is developed, there's clarity and congruency. Great execution comes from good management practices using communication, updates, and progress reports to ensure the right things are getting done at the right time.
And then let's look at the last of the 5 disciplines, and that's mission. And it's not, I'm not using mission in the traditional sense that you have a mission statement, and this is really the how and what of your organization. This is broader in terms of definition, and it really includes the values, your purpose, and then how do you give back? How do you give back to your employees? How do you give back to the community? How do you give back to your stakeholders? So I want to focus on one particular aspect of this, and this is purpose. We often see that businesses are challenged with defining their purpose. We're big believers in Simon Sinek. He's, of course, the modern day guru on business. And he talks about this whole question of why. Why are you in your business? Because people buy why you do something, not how or what you do. And the why is what differentiates you. So putting purpose into your organization, and when your entire team believes there's a compelling reason for you to be in business, that's what creates this emotional connection with the organization. It not only inspires your team, but it truly attracts your ideal client, and it promotes you within the community itself. Of course, none of this can be done if you don't have the standards of your business well defined and understood, both internally and externally, and that's why values become so important. They're the attitudes and guiding principles that govern the behaviors of your employees within the organization. It's also used to determine who do you want as an ideal client. Their values have to be congruent with your values. And then finally, all this adds up to how are you actually involved within the community? That truly does make a difference in how the business will thrive. The contributions you make, and not only that, but the benefits you achieve by the workforce that you're able to hire.
And we are mindful of time and keeping on time because you may have 8:30 meetings. So we're going to just post these questions here, a sample from our assessment, and ask yourself these questions. In regards to your mission being represented, does it represent your core values that are clearly defined, documented, and known by the team, used to hire, develop, and redeploy the team? Does it have a clear purpose that is an emotional connector for your employees and it impacts our community? And is it making a positive difference in the lives of your employees and your community and the world that we live in?
So let's look at the first question we posed at the beginning, the provocative one. How do you add zeros to every aspect of your business? And are you adding zeros, or are you adding zero? We encourage you to use a strategic thinking and execution planning process. And you see the process in the funnel to the left where the planning process starts. And if you're a larger business and maybe 10 years out, you have big, hairy, audacious goals that you want to achieve. Or if you're a mid-sized or smaller business, you ought to be looking at least 3 years out and what you envision happening with your business. That then next down to 1 year goals, finally 90-day plans, weekly action sheets, and daily checklists. We truly believe the way that you add zeros to your business is that you follow an annual and quarterly planning process. You have to align your plans to the budget and forecasts. You fix responsibility and assign goal champions as well as process champions to your business. And then you measure your progress and you adjust as necessary. Now, we're offering to you as registrants to this webinar a Team 5 discipline assessment. This is an assessment where it goes through the 5 disciplines, and for each discipline, it will ask you 10 questions. It's really meant for you and your staff. It truly does show you where you're aligned or that you're unaligned and areas that you can focus on your planning process. We have a handout for that. You can see that. It should be on the right-hand side of your screen. It's a 2-pager, but it explains it, and then it gives a few of the questions for each of the discipline that you can get an idea on how the assessment is laid out. The 3 questions we asked after each one of these 5 disciplines that we presented today are similar to the questions that would be in the assessment itself.
So we'll close with our vision is to empower leaders and their teams with the virtues, behaviors, and skills needed to find and live their one true north, their why, and their purpose to be, do, and have. And we do that by these offerings that you can see here on your screen. You can read through those between quarterly executive roundtables, one-to-one leadership and business coaching, executive and leadership team development, 2-day annual strategic thinking execution planning retreats, leadership and management skills workshops, and behavioral and learning assessments. And in addition to our Team 5 discipline assessment, our internationally awarded assessments produce a variety of customizable individual and team reports, and they range from optimizing communications, executive coaching and development, behavioral profiling for sales training, enhancing customer service communication, as well as identifying motivators and values of team members, emotional intelligence, and critical thinking for attracting the right people. So we've included the Team 5 disciplines assessment information that Paul told you about, and we look forward to following up with you early next week to give you more information about how you can get the entire assessment.
And just in closing, our ideal client is really a CEO with a leadership team, fast-growing organization, who's passionate about team and self-investment and driven really towards a big vision of the future. And then understands that the journey doesn't have to be taken alone and that we're there to help. If you have any questions, please reach out to us, and we encourage you to work on that definition of a business and how to add zeros to every aspect of your organization in ways that you can close the capability gap. Thanks so much for being on. Here's our contact information. Feel free to call us, text us, email us, and you'll also see phone numbers on the handout.